Diana Desai and welcome to lesson 1 of my beginning flutist series. I have been playing flute for 12 years and I just recently finished my music performance major studies at one of the most prestigious music colleges in Russia, in St. Petersburg. And I'm super excited to share my knowledge which I learned there with all of you in this beginning flutist video series. In our first lesson, I'm going to teach you the names of the different parts of the flute and how to assemble the flute, and we will also learn how to make the first sound on the flute. The flute consists of 3 parts: the head joint, the body joint, and the foot joint. In the beginning, it can be a little bit challenging to assemble the flute, especially for children. And since it is a very delicate instrument, we want to learn from the very beginning how to assemble it correctly so that we don't damage it in our very first try and we don't have to take it for repairs. The most important thing when assembling the flute is to be careful not to touch the keys, because they're very delicate and basically if you put too much pressure on them, they can get damaged. So we take the head joint and the body joint right here, not touching the keys, and we pop them one into the other. Some flutes will have little etchings here to indicate how to align the head joint with the body joint. My flute doesn't have that, so what you do in that case is just try to align this hole here with this first key and just the rest of the keys kind of in one line. Then after we did this, we can hold the body joint here and take out our foot joint and just gently slide it in. There are different opinions of how to align the foot joint. Some people like to align it like this so that this key is in line with the rest of the keys, but personally I feel that aligning this key with this little circle here is a much more comfortable way to align the foot joint with the body joint. Now that we know how to assemble our flute, we're going to learn how to make the first sound on the flute. And actually, strangely enough, we're going to do that not with the whole flute. So for the purpose of making the first sound on the flute, we're actually going to take the head joint out of the body joint, like this. And just place this down gently. Before we can try to make a sound with the flute though, we have to first understand how to correctly form our embouchure, or the lip position for playing the flute. One of the biggest mistakes about forming the embouchure, and one that we want to avoid at all costs, is the smiling embouchure. Some teachers teach their students the smiling embouchure. I was taught this myself when I was a little girl and I came to my first flute lesson. My teacher was actually a clarinet player, not a flute player. So how he taught me to form my embouchure is to smile and blow. When we're forming our embouchure on the flute, we want the corners of our lips to be a bit firm, but never tense. The smiling embouchure causes incredible unnecessary tension all over here in these muscles and basically prevents us from ever playing a beautiful sound on the flute. I myself had to spend many years to learn how to form the correct embouchure after having been taught the wrong method. So for forming our embouchure correctly, we want to think more pout rather than smile. Or also we can think of it as kissing lips, or we can think of it as trying to suck on a lollipop. We want it to be active, but at the same time relaxed. You can try saying the word poo, poo, and you can feel how your lips, just right here in the center, how they're a little firm, but at the same time relaxed. So think corners of the lips a little bit down, making a sort of pouty face. Then this circle in the middle of our lips being formed kind of like when we're saying the word poo. And then the little hole that forms in between the lips, which we call aperture. We want to think of that hole as being really small. How you can feel that is you can either imagine it or you can actually do it. You can think of having one little grain of rice that is in your mouth and you're trying to spit it out from right in the middle of your lips, like this. So try without the flute first. Just put your finger here and try blowing. Now we can take our head joint and see this area here. This is called the lip plate. And we're going to be putting this on our chin. Now how we're going to do that is, you see this corner here, the corner of the lip plate. So we'll put this corner of the lip plate right on our chin like this, so that this corner will be touching our bottom lip, slightly covering a little bit of the bottom lip, just like that. And make sure that the whole of the lip plate is centered, that it is right in the center of your lips. You don't want it to be off to the left or off to the right, because that will make it really hard for you to make a good sound. Now that we have our head joint in place, we want to make sure that about a third of this hole is visible. We don't want the entire hole to be visible, because then we won't be able to make a sound. It will sound like this. Also, we don't want the entire hole to be covered, because then we also can't make a sound. So we have our head joint in place, centered, about 1/3 of the hole visible. And now we remember our flute embouchure, not smiling, corners of the lips a little down, center of the lips a little bit relaxed, and the hole in between the lips small. And now we're going to think that we're blowing really down into the flute. We don't want to blow up, because then we won't get a sound. And we don't want to think that we're blowing straight either, but think that we're blowing down kind of at a 45-degree angle. Let's try. And you can think of this kind of similar to blowing across a bottle. I think probably many of you have done it at one point in your life. So this is kind of similar. You're trying to blow down into the flute. And make sure to keep the aperture, or the hole in between your lips, make sure to really keep it small. This is one of the biggest mistakes that beginner flutists make, is that they keep their aperture really big. And when the aperture is big, the sound sounds fluffy, it sounds airy, and it sounds quite bad. So really have this image of spitting a grain of rice from in between your lips, so that your aperture is really small. And once you have gotten that sound, you can try experimenting by putting your finger here, and you can make different sounds. You can even play little songs. Making the first sound on the flute and finding your correct flute embouchure in the beginning requires a lot of experimenting. So for your first week of playing flute, do not try to pick up the whole flute and put it all together and play. Because if you do that, you will miss the very important beginner stage of learning how to really make a good tone on the head joint. And that is really important, to set off with learning how to make a great sound on just the head joint. because once you put the whole flute together, things get much more complicated. So for the first week, just try to play on the head joint, play in front of the mirror, and just try to get a really good consistent sound. And remember what you're doing in order to get that consistent sound. So follow my instructions, but also experiment in front of the mirror. Now this is it for our first lesson of the Beginning Flutist series. I hope you enjoyed this lesson and that it will help you to start your journey on the flute. However, I would like to emphasize the importance of individual instruction. I teach private online lessons and I have a few spaces available for new students, and I would be happy to work with you. I tailor my lessons to the needs of each individual student, and I especially love working with beginners. I offer very affordable rates. If you're interested in having a private online lesson with me, please follow the link in the description. If you enjoyed this video, please like and share with your fellow flute lovers. And also feel free to subscribe to my channel because I'll be posting out new videos weekly for this beginner flute series and also other interesting flute videos. So subscribe so you don't miss my new videos. See you next time, and I hope you have a wonderful week.